Sound check 1 2 3. Sound check 1 2 3.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the City of Hamilton General Issues Committee meeting for February 25th, 2026. As we have quorum, I would like to call today's meeting to order. A reminder that all electronic devices are to be switched to a non-audible function during committee meetings. To our viewers, we are having a few technical issues with intermittent broadcasting. So if your picture is going out or the audio is going out, please switch to the City of Hamilton's YouTube channel and it should be fine there. Madam Clerk, can you advise of items included in the addendum for the agenda?
Deputy Mayor, there is one added item for consideration and one added notice of motion.
Thank you very much. I need a mover and seconder to approve the agenda as presented. Moved by Councillor Francis, seconded by Councillor Tatterson. Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. This is a motion by hands. And that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest this morning? Seeing none, we're going to move on to item 5 in the agenda, which is the approval of the minutes of the previous meetings. 5.1 is GIC 26-002, February 4th, 2026. 5.2 is GIC 26-003, Special General Issues Committee meeting for February the 10th, 2026. May I have a mover and seconder to adopt these previous minutes? Moved by Councillor Wang, seconded by Councillor Maureen Wilson. All in favor by show of hands, please. And that is unanimous. Thank you very much. We're moving on to our delegations now, which is item 6. Before we begin our delegations for today, members are reminded that questions of the delegations are for clarification purposes only and not for debate. A note to our delegate, you have 5 minutes to complete your delegation. You will hear a tone, a little ding at 4 minutes, and then you will have an additional minute to finish up. Our delegate this morning is item 6.1, Tyler Dhaliwal, respecting a potential solution to the states of emergency Hamilton redeclared in 2024, which still persists to this day: homelessness, mental health issues, and the opioid epidemic. This is an in-person delegation. Tyler, come on down, please. It is 9:32 a.m. We are.
Delegation was scheduled for 3?
No, sir.
Okay, just double checking.
If you can move that mic a little bit closer. You don't have to bend over, just move it. There you go.
Thank you.
When you begin speaking, your 5 minutes will start.
Sure. As you guys might have noticed, there is a almost library of books up over yonder. I've been doing a lot of research over the past 8 to 10 months. I actually got out of the psych ward yesterday. I overdosed yesterday and I'm still here. There are a lot of problems in the city. There's a lot of misery in this city that since 2017, when we've been tracking overdose deaths, they've only been increasing. And there's one book in particular, there's a bunch up there that I've referred to, but one in particular, Chasing the Scream by Johann Hari. And I'll quote you a page from page 231. And I know this one because it was a very, very good point. Now, how many of you guys here are familiar with the iron law of prohibition? Show of hands. One? Anyone else in the council? Iron law of prohibition? No? Okay, so we got one hand. Nice. 231. So this effect is called the iron law of prohibition.
Tyler, could you please move the microphone?
Thank you. This effect is called the iron law of prohibition. To understand it, We have the fight to go back to the early 1920s in the reign of Arnold Rothstein, where our story began. The day before alcohol prohibition was introduced, the most popular drink in the United States was beer. But as soon as alcohol was banned, hard liquor soared from 40% of all drinks that were consumed to 90%. Now, what does that mean? People responded to a change in the law by shifting from a milder drink to a stronger drink. This seems puzzling. Why would a change in the law change people's taste in alcohol? It turns out it didn't change their tastes. It changed something else: the range of drinks that were offered to them. The reason is surprisingly simple. One of the best analysts of the drug war, the writer Mike Gray, explains in his book, Drug Crazy, when you are smuggling a substance into a country and transporting it in secret, you have to put the maximum bang in the smallest possible package, he writes. Now, what are we witnessing in this city as we speak? Fentanyl went from, whatever, to now it's being cut with A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's taking more than 1, 2, 3, 4 doses of naloxone, even if those work. We're not changing anything from 2017 to 2026. That's what, 3, 6, 9 years. And the trend has only increased. And it's very frustrating. I live at the Y myself. In the past month, I've seen 6 ODs. On my floor, I have administered naloxone 3 times. I'm just an average citizen with a litany of mental health problems. And it does not help me trying to get from a transitional living program to housing when I'm surrounded by not only the misery of others, but my own misery unto itself. I walk around Jackson Square. I'm broke I'm really poor. I only go to the library and Jackson Square. That's where I do all of my reading. And the number of overdoses I see a day, and I do not have it in my heart to just walk by. I don't. And I see numerous people, middle, upper class, do the look, walk on by. The TD Coliseum's doing great. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander invested in it recently. That's great.
Tyler, that is your time. So would you like to wrap up with some comments, please?
Yes, I would like to wrap it up. Thank you for letting me know.
No problem, sir.
Directly across from the TD Coliseum is the Salvation Army Inn. And if that is not juxtapositional to this city, I don't know what is. I've seen your Solve the Crisis and Stop the Crisis websites. I will commend you on the fact that you guys have been able to get support amongst all of the major municipal mayors across Ontario. That's great. There's impetus for support there. There needs to be more done. This is not a city issue. This is a provincial issue. And if we were to band together, not just Hamilton, but all the other cities and all the other municipalities that are struggling with these problems, maybe then our voice will be heard. The concept of mass protest seems null, but that's because a lot of people are uneducated on it.
Okay, Tyler, that's your time now. I'm going to ask the councilors if any of them have any questions for you.
Yes, please. I would
Please.
love to entertain some questions.
Thank you. Councilors, do you have any questions for our delegate? Councilor Wang, please. So put your microphone on. There you go.
Thank you for your delegation today, and thank you for sharing your story. My question is around, if you are in this spot, what would you recommend that we would be doing, given what you've seen with our Solve the Crisis and all of that stuff?
That's a great question. And
Tyler, if you could just look at me, please, because I'm in the chair. You speak to the chair, not to the councilor. Go ahead.
She did direct the question, but I appreciate that. Not a fan of formality, but I do respect that.
I am, unfortunately.
Now, with respect to your question,
Your microphone. No one can hear you. There you go.
so how many of you are familiar with the Children's March of 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King?
Most
show of
would be.
hands.
Most would be.
What made it significant? What made that march cause JFK to say what he said with respect to, would you be content with, and I'm paraphrasing here, but would you be content with your kid's shoes? I'm forgetting the quote here, but the 1963 Children's March was so important because it wasn't just a mass mobilization of people like us who the government can throw tear gas at and militarize. No, they brought kids into it. And the second kids were brought into it, the media saw that and was like, whoa, what's going on here? Now, I'm not saying we bring kids into this, but you guys here sitting, everyone here, if the government, I would dare the government, the Ford government, to throw tear gas at you guys. That's completely undemocratic.
Okay. Thank you, Tyler. Councilor Wang, do you have a supplemental question for the delegate?
I do not. Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the delegate for delegating today. Thank you.
Councilors, are there any further questions of the delegate? Tyler, speaking as the chair, I want to thank you for coming in today. I want to thank you for sharing your experience. I'm over here. I want to thank you for sharing your experience and the traumas that you've been living with. It's a tough issue. You're correct that the province needs to help us, and hopefully delegations like yours will start to ring some bells at Queen's Park. So thank you very much for your attendance
Well,
today.
where's the advocacy on your part?
I'm thanking you for your presentation today, sir. Okay. Councilors, I need a motion to receive the presentation, moved by Councilor Wang, seconded by Councilor Ted McMeekin. I believe that is a hand vote. Yes? All in favor, please, hands up. And that is carried. Thank you very much. We're now moving on to items for information. If there are no objections from the committee, I'd like to have a mover and seconder to put items 7.1 and 7.2 on the floor as a group. Moved by Councillor Paul, seconded by Councillor Wang. Thank you. So 7.1 is ACPD 26-002, Accessibility Committee for Persons with Disabilities. They had no quorum on February the 10th. 7.2 is BIAC 26-002, Business Improvement Area Subcommittee minutes for February 17th, 2026. Are there any discussions on those two items? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And that is carried unanimously. We're now moving on to item 7.3. FCS 24033A, attaining efficiencies through the review of the use of consultants citywide. May I have a move and seconder to put the item on the floor? Moved by Councillor Kretsch, seconded by Councillor Tattison. Thank you. Is there any discussion on the item? Councillor Kretsch, please. Your mic should be on now.
Thanks very much. I won't belabor the point here because Councillor Tattison and I have a motion coming forward to the next General Issues Committee, which will address many of the questions that I would have had, and so I'll wait for that report to come back. But I did want to ask a little bit about the gap analysis portion of how this works. When staff undertook this work, according to the report, some of the analysis was, yes, we have places where there are gaps, we don't have staff, they're sometimes hard to recruit on a regular basis. And I was wanting a bit more of an expansion on that. I think when we're discussing the heritage engineer of record issue, for instance, right? One of the things I discovered in that conversation was, well, if we hire a heritage engineer, is that person going to have enough work to do year-round on a full-time basis to make it worthwhile to hire an engineer to do that work? Is it going to be cost prohibitive, non-cost prohibitive, those kinds of things? So I'm just wondering if staff could comment on their analysis with respect to, is that how they were determining these things? Is it just that there are some recruitment-related issues with respect to trying to get some of these folks on board? I just thought I'd ask that question to whomever can
Okay,
answer.
not sure who's going to be answering that. Perhaps I'll start with the city manager.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I have to apologize. An incident came up, so I'll have to ask that you repeat the question.
Councillor?
No problem. My question is about asking, well, I'll ask it a different way then. In the report, it talks about work that could be done, right? We could look more closely at some of these issues with respect to how we understand our use of consultants when we make decisions to hire people. Sometimes that's because of cost, right? So I'm just trying to understand, I guess, again, like I said, Councillor Tatteson and I are bringing forward a notice of motion, so that will take care of some of this, but why staff didn't just say, okay, we recommend that we're actually going to do these things. So there's a bunch of things we could do, we may do, we can do, right? Gap analyses, looking at recruitment, all these kinds of things. I guess my question really is why we don't think we should undertake those activities.
City manager? They're just conferring for the councillors on virtual.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm going to ask first our General Manager of Public Works to respond since she has a bulk of contracts, and then other colleagues can join in.
Thank you. GM Kennedy?
Thank you. Jackie Kennedy, General Manager of Public Works. So the question is about the potential next steps in the report, I think?
Yeah, I guess I'm saying that when I read it, I saw a lot of potential language, right? Could, should, would, can, we might, those kinds of things, we know that
Okay.
type of stuff. But I didn't see us being like, yeah, we're going to undertake this, we ought to do this, we will do this is when it's going to happen.
Okay. So the arrangement of work that we have in Hamilton is consistent with a delivery model that's used broadly across municipalities in Ontario. We have a workforce that is knowledgeable in broad terms about the infrastructure that we take care of, and we use consultants to augment that for capacity and for expertise. And so staff don't recommend that we need to do a gap analysis because the model that we're using is proven, it's reliable, it's effective, and it allows us to be nimble with what we deliver in terms of volume and in terms of expertise. If that can, thank you.
Councillor, supplemental?
When I think of the word consultants, I often think of the word contractors, and so I think we didn't ask that question specifically, but do you think that's a different question than this question?
GM Kennedy?
Thank you. Through the chair, contractors and consultants do perform different roles. So consultants provide services that are less tangible. They provide expertise and frame up the work that we need to do, and then the contractors are the trades that go out and actually perform the work. So related, they are all part of the tools in the toolkit that we use to invest in our infrastructure and our programs, but they do have different expertise and functions.
That's helpful because I think at some point I really want to dig into that issue, I think almost more importantly than this in some ways, because I think our use of contractors is a whole other kind of discovery process we need to undertake. I'll ask one very specific question since you're the one answering these questions. we do something here called in-service roadway safety reviews. And I know that sometimes we contract those out or they are done by consultants. But in the very inherent idea of an in-service roadway safety review, as it's defined, is that it's something that's done internally. So in situations like that, you know, I see there's lots of situations like that when you look across the organization in terms of replicating that kind of behavior where it's inherently thought that we could do that type of thing internally, but we don't. Do you have any sense of whether it's worthwhile looking at those kinds of things? Because that does seem like something we do rather frequently or could do rather frequently on a more proactive basis in terms of doing those kinds of reviews, and could hire expertise to be in-house and to have those things happen in a lot more streamlined manner. Otherwise, there is, frankly, as far as I can tell, maybe you can confirm this, a time delay, right, for sending this work out to someone else. That's the major impact of a lot of this, is that it takes a lot more time. Well, there's other impacts, but anyway. Yeah, so I'm wondering if you could comment on that.
GM Kennedy?
But I'm asking this question corporately. I mean, I know the city manager asked you to answer the question, but like this is a corporate question for me, so I'm not looking for the answer necessarily just from you, but there's many things like that across the city, and I'm not sure why we aren't taking undertaking a review of those things.
I think in any situation where we have consistent work that we're doing repeatedly, we would look at if there's a threshold there that would suggest that we bring the work in-house. I can use the example of utility locates, where we were doing that consistently. That was recommended as a report, I think 2 years ago or so now, where we formed a team in Hamilton Water that now does the utility locates and the facilitation of that in-house. And we brought forward a business case to demonstrate that that was where the value was. So we do have examples where we've looked at that kind of work, where we're doing it consistently, we're doing it repeatedly, in a way that sufficiently justifies having a dedicated team to do that. I can't comment today on if the in-road safety review would meet that threshold, but we can. I mean, there are probably examples that we would look at, and I think the answer is that we do, and we're aware of that, and as an option, and as needed, we would bring reports to council if there's an opportunity.
Thanks. I'll leave it for our motion that's coming at the next meeting for the rest of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Crouch. Councillor Mark Tattison, your microphone is on, sir.
Thank you, and through the chair to the general manager. In the report, it says recent efforts indicate a strategic moderation in consultant use, aligning it with capacity building initiatives. Now, I just heard you speak about utility locates. Do you have any, I guess, any other examples, and do you have any dollar values that are attached to the savings that may have been occurred because of these efforts?
GM Kennedy. Oh, GM Zagarek.
Through the chair, Mike Zagarek, General Manager, Finance Corporate Services. I think three come to mind based on past budget processes where business cases were brought forward by staff to transition the reliance on consultants and contractors and to bring that work in-house. The utility locates, GM Kennedy made reference to corporate services. We had one in reducing our reliance on external audit or accounting firms to do tax-related work, and I believe payment cuts was another initiative that was brought in-house some years ago. And these do come before committee and council, including through the budget process in the form of business cases, as Jim Kennedy identified, where the volume of work provides the opportunity to bring that work in-house in an effort to improve collaboration across departments and improve the value to the taxpayers and ratepayers.
And I appreciate that answer. And through the chair, can I just ask then, who is working hard to identify that on staff?
Through the chair, that happens through our program areas and through leadership. Through our leadership and management teams, as part of the budget process, they do review whether or not there's an opportunity to realign work, including bringing work in-house, but recognizing from time to time there are special projects or the volume varies, and that would justify the continued utilization of contractors or consultants for those types of initiatives.
Councillor?
Okay, thank you very much, GM. No more questions.
As I don't see any further questions, Councillor Cooper, if you could take the chair for a second, please. There we, no, wrong one.
Thank you. Recognizing you, Councillor Clark. Thank you.
On page 4 of 7, table 1, I'd like to draw everyone's attention to that. It cites this as an example of external consultants and their subject matter expertise and how it would be applied to a specific project. Is this example real? Or is this an example of what might have been needed?
Through the chair, this is a real example.
So how do we justify 19 consultants working on one small project?
Thank you. The purpose of this is to articulate all the different details and expertise that are required. And so it's not 19, if that's the number, I don't have a count.
It is 19.
Okay. It's not 19 different consultants or contracts. It would be done through one consultant who would bring on the expertise within their own workforce. And so consultants are set up that way to allow, for example, to bring in an expert in irrigation and drainage design or lighting, and they would bring that individual in to work for several hours on this project, and then they would move on to another project, perhaps for a different municipality. For us to have that kind of expertise on full-time would not be efficient. So it's through a team, but under generally one contract assignment or consulting assignment. Contracted consulting assignment, if I can clarify.
So the report reads, below provides an example for a specific project where various types of external consultants and their subject matter expertise would be applied. And I asked if it was a real experience, and there are 19 consultants. So you're saying there are not 19 consultants?
Thank you for the chance to clarify. I think this is a language clarification. Capital C consultant would be a consulting firm. Lowercase consultants would be an employee who works for a consultant. So you are a staff, a project manager, an expert in electrical design. You would be called a consultant as an individual, but you would be working for a capital C consultant as the firm.
I guess I'm still struggling with this because in the 19 examples, it doesn't say consultant in any one of them. It looks like they're all outside contractors who have been hired by the city to do things like designing a community-sized play area, tree planting and landscaping, electrical site servicing, and I could go on and on. So I struggle, Chair, because I know we have some of this experience with our 9,000 employees. And yet, here's an example where we went outside of those 9,000 employees, and I can tell you from experience, the cost of retaining consultants to do this type of work puts up the costs on the project significantly. So I'm really concerned about it. I thank Councillor Taddison and Councillor Kretsch for their notice of motion in response to this report. From this report, I'm left with more questions than answers. So thank you very much. I'll take the chair back.
Okay. Thank you. Over to you, Councillor Clark.
Councillor Craig Kassar, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just some comments on this report, and then you referred to the notice of motion. I think it's helpful to have this report. It was enlightening for me. I know the topic of consultants has been a theme throughout this term of council. And I think it's our job as Board of Governors to be challenging operations leadership and making sure it's being efficient as possible. From my perspective, my opinion, I think it's important that we're focusing on outcomes, getting the best outcomes for the citizens and businesses, taxpayers of Hamilton, and trusting our senior leadership to do that effectively. GM Kennedy had referred to the municipal practice of using contractors and consultants is something that is widely regarded. It's well tested. It gets good results. I think it's fair for us to be challenging that and making sure that it is getting the best outcome. Where I would draw the line personally is dictating what should or should not be consultant work. We are not experts in all of these functions. Again, we should challenge to make sure we're getting the best outcomes. Hopefully we could all agree on that, and making sure that staff can validate and prove that, yes, this is the right way to be doing it. So just some thoughts, Chair, on what I'm keeping in mind as we work through this topic and for when that motion comes to the next General Issues Committee. Interested in getting the most cost-effective service for residents, but being sure that we're not making it more difficult for staff to actually achieve that outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cameron Cretch, second time.
Thanks, I appreciate that clarification. And I have a similar mindset in terms of how we're approaching this. The understanding I have is that the report puts forward a number of suggestions of things we could do. And we don't have a holistic approach across the entire organization that we're taking with respect to how we use consultants, as far as I can tell, in terms of evaluating the kinds of things we could do. So maybe we're not the ones who are going to be suggesting what those areas might be specifically, although I'm sure we have examples. It'd be useful to have staff come forward and say, hey, here are 10 areas and 10 specific types of things in my program area that we do routinely, send it to consultants. There may be a way to look at those things and get help with them. I think one of the issues we encounter from my perspective is structurally how the city's organized. So a great example that I used before is the transportation in general, right? So we have a transportation planning department, transportation operations, transportation this, that, and the other. We have so many different transportation related things, including transit, right, that are all spread across different departments and divisions. And when the work is being done inside those little siloed places, right, of course it makes sense to sometimes hire a consultant to do it. But if we look at this from a more holistic perspective, there may be a person that could be hired to do work cross-departmentally, right? So someone could do some work here, they could have expertise that applies in both places. So that's the kind of stuff I'm hoping that we'll see. I also think as part of the outcomes you mentioned, one of the biggest outcomes aside from cost effectiveness is time. Like an outcome, I think, has to also ask us, like, could this thing have been done in half the time? Could this thing have been done in a quarter of the time? And that will have an impact on the outcome, especially if it's safety related. So are we preventing more collisions? Are we preventing near misses? Are we preventing pedestrian and cyclist injuries, right? By trying to get this done quicker. So we don't evaluate that stuff necessarily in the outcome, right? The outcome might be, we did this great thing, the project is fantastic, but I don't see us as a city evaluating, wait a minute, could we have done this more efficiently? And where did that help us to address issues like safety. So those are the kind of things I'm focused on, but I really appreciate the clarification, because you're right. I don't want us to go around here saying, hey, we shouldn't be using that consultant, we shouldn't be using that consultant, but I don't think there's a holistic or systemic approach to this yet.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any further questions or comments on this particular item? Seeing none, I can't recall, did I get a mover and seconder? Councillor Cretch, Councillor Taddison moved and seconded. Thank you. All those in favor with a show of hands, please. And that is unanimous around the table. Thank you. The next item is 7.4 FCS 26031, tax sale properties May 12th citywide. May I have a mover and seconder to put the item on the floor first? Moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Wang. And we need a motion to defer the item to the in-camera portion of our meeting. Moved by Councillor Maureen Wilson, seconded by Councillor Cooper. And all those in favor of the deferral to the in-camera, raise your hands, please. Thank you. That's unanimous. Items for consideration, 8.1 is amendments to the outstanding business lists. Items considered complete and needing to be removed. May I have a mover and seconder to put the amendments on the floor? Moved by Councillor Paul, seconded by Councillor Cassar. Is there any discussion on the OBL list? Seeing none, this is a recorded vote, so electronic, please. Oh, mine came up and went already. Our technical issues have now spread to eScribe. There we go. It's not popping up. What's the vote? Carried unanimously. So now moving on to item 8.2 in the agenda, PED 26009, Downtown Hamilton Business Improvement Area 2026 Budget, Schedule of Payments, Ward 2. May I have a move and seconder to put the item on the floor? Moved by Councillor Kretsch, seconded by Councillor Pauls. Is there any discussion on item 8.2? Seeing none, we'll call the vote, please. It is electronic as well. And that vote carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 8.3 is PED 26044, dissolution of the Hess Village Pedestrian Mall Authority and repeal of bylaw 80-183 as amended in Ward 2. I need a move and seconder to put the item on the floor. Moved by Councillor Kretsch, seconded by Councillor Wang. Is there any discussion on the item? Councillor Kretsch, your microphone is on, sir.
Thank you. I'll be brief, but just want to say it is a miracle we've arrived at dissolving this non-functioning, non-existent entity. I've been trying to do this since day one of being elected. I was mandatorily appointed to the Hess Village Pedestrian Mall Authority, which never met, which never had a meeting called, which never had a chair in this term of council. It was just this dormant, strange thing that was there. And so created a lot of actually serious problems because the original bylaw for this was actually about trying to encourage there to be a mandate for police to do something here in the area and also create parking situations, but then it ended up just being this kind of, I guess, line item that we would use for snow clearing in Hess Village. Anyways, it was a risky thing to keep doing because there was no governance structure whatsoever for it. So I'm grateful that this has finally been wound down. We now have the Hess Village BIA, which is taking over the functionality of the things that remained here. But it was a risk to leave it open because the original bylaw made no sense. There was no governance structure, and it was just kind of, sending in receipts in a vacuum. So I'm grateful that nothing did transpire that was risky. We got rid of it. Again, very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Seeing none, I'll call the vote, please. It's electronic. Nope. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We're now moving on to item 9, which are motions for today. 9.1 is sorry. You're correct. How could I forget the LRT? PED 26059, Light Rail Transit LRT Agreement Update citywide. May I have a move and seconder to put the item on the floor? Moved by Councillor Maureen Wilson, seconded by Councillor Mark Tatterson. Is there any discussion on the item? This just deals with the dispute resolution process. I see Councillor Robert Cooper is up.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to just move to defer this. I just received it this morning. I'd like some time to review it.
So,
I just received it today.
okay, so you're moving to defer this to where and when? Sorry.
Next GIC meeting.
Next GIC meeting. Is there a seconder to defer this item to the next GIC meeting? Councillor Francis is seconding it. So it is a deferral motion to the next GIC meeting with no direction attached. Correct, Councillor? Thank you. Deferral is debatable? There are no instructions, so Councillor Tom Jackson, you were on my list to speak.
If the deferral loses, could you put me back on to speak?
Understood. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cameron Kretsch.
Thanks very much. Mine is a point to ask for clarification based on the comments made with respect to the deferral. I don't recall when this was added to the agenda for this meeting, and so could somebody clarify that? It has an asterisk beside it, which means that it was likely added late. But when some member of council is saying, I just received this today, I want to clarify what that means, please.
Clerk?
So through the Deputy Mayor, it was published on Friday, but we only print the addendum agendas the day before, so I was only having to print it one time.
So it's been available online since Friday, but a printed copy was only sent to councillors yesterday.
But they were emailed of the change? Thank you. Does that answer your question? Any further questions?
It does answer my question. I'm concerned about that process. I'm just going to highlight that for people. If people are depending upon a paper copy, if that's something that people are actually doing, then we might have to think about how we distribute those, because if the agenda is available online and people are not accessing it online, I'm just putting this out there because someone actually raised it as a concern. So I'm not suggesting we take any action. I'm just saying, ding, someone said it. So we should figure out a process that works for everybody to access these things if it's needed. I think you can ask for an accommodation if you need to have paper copies and get them sent to you. So I'd recommend everyone do that and make sure they get these things as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Okay, I leave that to each elected member to make a decision as to how they're going to receive their information. That question has prompted other questions. Mayor Horvath, please.
Thanks very much, Deputy Mayor Clark. I just wanted to get a sense from staff what the implications are of delaying this to the next GIC and then the next council, considering the fact that the LRT process is moving along. So can I get some clarification of whether there are some implications in a delay that a deferral would cause?
General Manager Prasad, please.
Yes, thank you very much, and good morning. Arvind Prasad, General Manager, Planning and Economic Development. The LRT project is on a very tight schedule, as members are aware. However, I don't think a deferral to the next GIC, as long as we get it on for the next GIC, would be a major impediment for us.
Thank you. Mayor Horvath.
I'm grateful for the response. I don't think we need, I'm not going to debate. It's not a debatable motion.
Thank you. I understand. Councillor Maureen Wilson, please. Your microphone is on.
Thank you. Thank you to Councillor Kretsch for seeking confirmation. So I just want to make sure I understood the answer offered by Elsie McCray. All members of council were in receipt of this report by Friday. Is that the case?
Clerk.
Through the Deputy Mayor, that is correct.
Councillor.
So yes, I understand that there are some members who are in receipt of their information via print. I won't debate that. I think accommodation has been provided in both realms. Thank you.
Thank you. Oops, sorry, I put your mic. Don't touch it. Yay. Okay, so I think we've heard all the questions, so we'll call the vote on the deferral to the next GIC meeting. It's an electronic vote. It should be electronic, please. And the vote is up on your screens. And that was soundly defeated, 11-3. Okay, Councillor Jackson, I think you were on my list, and was it Councillor Kretsch also, or? No? Okay, Councillor Jackson, please.
Thank you, and good morning, Deputy Mayor Clark. Just through you to Director Sheikh, or I'll start with GM Prasad. So everyone knows I'm against the LRT, but I just want to ask, why is this even before us, this dispute resolution protocol, when even some members of council that I would humbly suggest may be soft supporters of the LRT keep telling me, Tom, it's all in the hands of Metrolinx and the province. There's nothing more we can do about it. So maybe just an explanation why this is here before us, please, through you, Deputy Mayor.
GM Prasad.
Yes, thank you very much for that question. Although, as noted to the chair, there may be varying amounts of support on the LRT, it is still a matter that we need to discuss and deal with. There are requirements for decision-making, and good project management would suggest that as part of decision-making, there's protocols put in place in terms of escalation and final decisions being made. So that's what this is for.
Thanks, Jim Prasad. Just a follow-up question to you then. So again, hypothetically, is this DRP necessary because hypothetically, we want to avoid any potential escalation to the legal level? I'll use Ottawa as an example where, to my knowledge, there's been lawsuits, counter lawsuits between the contractor, Metrolinx, the City of Ottawa, just to my knowledge. So is this DRP to hopefully prevent that hypothetical type of situation through you, DM Clark?
I'm going to go to GM Prasad, and then if you could refer it to...
Yes. Thank you very much for the question. And yes,
Mayor.
absolutely, but I will refer it to Director Abdul Sheikh, and he's the Director of the LRT.
Director, I see you way back there in the...
Through the chair, my name is Abdul Sheikh, Director, LRT Project Office. First question of Councillor Jackson is about, as you know, Councillor, that we have executed a memorandum of understanding back in 2021 that was executed between Metrolinx and MTO and City. And under the MOU, there are 11 schedules identified. And then dispute resolution protocol is one of those 11 schedules which mention that, the parties will work together to execute as soon as they are ready. So as of today, we have already executed 3 schedules which were contemplated under the MOU. One was a staffing agreement, another was governance protocol, and another was a real estate protocol. So this is the 4th protocol which was mentioned under the MOU we are bringing to the council to execute. In terms of your question, Councillor Jackson, MOU does not, I have a solicitor, Dave McKenna, online, but I just want to give you a brief that MOU does not mention about, the DRB, the Dispute Resolution Board, and all those things, right? Because if we don't execute this one, then this could be, if there is any dispute between the party, then it's going to go through the litigation process. But I will pass on to Dave McKenna, who is LRT solicitor, who will probably be able to provide more context for the comfort.
Thanks, Director Sheikh. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
If Solicitor McKenna is here, or
yeah, he's online.
That'll be bonus country to hear from the Solicitor, Deputy Mayor. Please.
Solicitor McKenna, please. Thank you, Councillor.
Through the chair, good morning, everyone. David McKenna, Solicitor with Legal Services. Thank you, Abdul. So, Councillor, if it's helpful, I can provide a full rundown of the dispute resolution protocol. If that's something that you'd be interested in hearing.
Provided it's not anything that's necessarily needs to remain confidential.
Through the chair, yeah, there's nothing confidential here, Councillor, so I'm happy to go through this.
And Deputy Mayor,
So currently it is.
Solicitor, in maybe a Reader's Digest version, please. I'm not looking for a long essay, if you could, please.
The councillor is worried about the time that is left for his questions. So you can still have a couple of minutes, councillor. Go ahead, Solicitor.
Of course, no problem. Through the chair, I'm happy to do that, Councillor, and I'll certainly try to keep it as brief here as I can. So as Abdul had alluded to, under the MOU as it's currently constituted, it sets out a certain process that's followed if there are disputes. So if we cannot resolve a dispute at the staff level, it will be escalated to the steering committee. And if the steering committee is unable to resolve it, it will then go to the executive committee. Now, the problem is that the MOU does not provide a dispute resolution process beyond that executive committee level. The reason being is that the intent was always for the parties to negotiate and execute this dispute resolution protocol. So as Abdul mentioned, it is one of the contemplated schedules to the MOU, and it states in the MOU that the parties will negotiate and execute the dispute resolution protocol. So the purpose of the report in front of you today is to obtain the necessary signing authority to execute the dispute resolution protocol that we as staff have negotiated with Metrolinx. So, Councillor, the long and the short of the dispute resolution protocol is that it establishes what's called the Dispute Review Board. So if there is a dispute that the executive committee is unable to resolve, it would then subsequently be referred to the dispute review board. The dispute review board would then hear the dispute, they would make a final determination within 30 days, and that determination would then be binding upon the parties. So the idea here is that we want to set out a timely and collaborative approach to disputes so that we don't have to litigate, so that we'll be able to save money, we'll be able to save time. If there are disputes, then we can refer them to the dispute review board. But I would want to emphasize the point, though, that we do, as staff, we go to great lengths to attempt to resolve all disputes at the staff level. And up until now, I think we've been relatively successful in that endeavor. But I think it's important as the project moves on to the next phases that we have this process in place to resolve disputes should we be unable to resolve them at the staff level, the steering committee level, and subsequently executive level. So I think that just gives you a general idea. I'm happy to get into any more detail or address any further questions you might have.
Solicitor McKenna, that was outstanding and very thorough for my edification. I really appreciate that. Just a closing comment, Deputy Mayor Clark. I still feel this project is headed for troubled waters. We've seen what's happened at Eglinton Crosstown with the delay in going over budget, what's happened in Ottawa. And if everybody's telling me this is all Metrolinx, Tom, City of Hamilton has nothing to do with it, then if I'm further concerned we even need a DRP. I'll be voting against it. Thanks, Deputy Mayor Clark.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Robert Cooper, please.
Thank you, Chair. And maybe through you to the solicitor as well. So when I think about a dispute resolution mechanism, it really talks about risk and exposure. So as I understand this particular project, it's funded by the federal and provincial governments, is managed by Metrolinx. Can you speak to what kind of exposure the city you would see would have in this?
Solicitor McKenna, please.
Through the chair to the councillor, just to clarify, councillor, you mean in terms of financial or legal exposure as a result of the project?
Yes.
Yes,
through the chair.
Yes.
I thank you, councillor. It's a good question, councillor. Off the top of my head, you know, I can't really think of any. The intent here, again, I would just reiterate the fact that this is Metrolinx's project. They are paying for it along with the federal government. So the city doesn't have any direct involvement in terms of the construction or anything like that. So I would have a hard time thinking of a specific example of where there could potentially be liability. But, you know, I would maybe ask if Abdul can think of anything that I'm missing, I would ask him to step in there as well.
Thank you. Abdul?
Yeah, through the chair, just want to add, as we already have a MOU, and MOU does identify roles and responsibility. The biggest thing here is that this project is built within the city of Hamilton right-of-way, right? So technically, city owns the property, and Metrolinx would require to abide all the bylaws what we have. So some of the example I can provide, which happens with other municipality, because we are the permitting authority. For example, you know, if there is a commitment that we have to issue the permitting on time and those kind of things, right? And then we do have the approval authority on design submissions and those kind of things. So if we are not able to respond those timelines, then there could be a dispute because it's going to trigger the project delay. So some of these examples, because we are the permitting authority, in some cases we are the approval authority, because they are constructing within road right-of-way, which we own as a city of Hamilton. So there could be some issues which could trigger to project delays and those kind of things, right? So there are other schedule talks about timelines like permit and license and approval, and there are other schedule under the MOU does talk about But if there are disputes which are not agreed, which are against those agreements between city and Metrolinx, that could trigger through this dispute resolution protocol.
Thank you. That's okay, Chair. Just to follow up. So what I'm now hearing is that it's not Metrolinx that's completely managing this project. There's elements of it that City of Hamilton's managing. Did I understand that correctly?
Through the chair, yes, City of Hamilton has a responsibility under the MOU, which does talk about roles and responsibility under the Memorandum of Understanding. Overall, Metrolinx will be leading, designing, constructing, but we do have some roles and responsibility identified under the MOU. For example, as I mentioned, that we do have a permitting authority. We do have approval of city infrastructure, what they're going to build, because there are lots of city infrastructure going to be built as part of this project. So we do have an approval authority to review all of the design before they go into the construction. So yes, there are some roles and responsibilities identified under the MOU.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the answers. Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Back to the DRP, can you help me understand the Dispute Review Board? Because in page 3 at the very bottom, it says, under the DRP, parties are agreed to create a list of impartial subject matter experts. Each party shall select one individual from the list, and then the 2 selected individuals shall jointly select a third party from the list. Just a question on how big is this potential list of impartial subject matter experts? Because I do know that there are lots of different projects, but impartial subject matter experts is the key term that I'm a little bit questioning.
Solicitor McKenna.
Through the chair to the councillor. Yeah, that's correct, councillor. So the idea is to have this panel, which we will then draw upon to select. Metrolinx will select one individual, the city will select one, and those 2 then will select a third. So those 3 individuals will constitute the Dispute Review Board. So in terms of how many people will actually be on the panel, the DRP doesn't set out what that number would actually be. So I can't speak to how large that will be, but I can say with certainty that the Dispute Review Board itself will be no more than 3 individuals.
Councillor.
Thank you. My second question is as it relates to timelines, because if we think about how a dispute goes through the system, it's supposedly not resolved at the staff level, not resolved at the executive board, and then it goes to the DRP. So is there an expectation of turnaround time, or could this feasibly get drawn out and drawn out and drawn out, which then delays the actual implementation of the LRT?
Solicitor McKenna, please.
Through the chair to the councillor. So that's one of the things that we certainly are seeking to avoid with the dispute resolution protocol, councillor. So you'll note that there are certain sections within the dispute resolution protocol which set out the timelines. So for the steering committee, there is specific timelines set out that the steering committee has to work within, same for the executive committee. And then once it's actually referred to the dispute review board, they have to render a decision within 30 days. So again, that's one of the primary principles, if you will, of the dispute review protocol, is to set out specific timelines that the parties will follow so that we can ensure that disputes are resolved within a timely fashion.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I think I was looking at Appendix A and it felt like it was buried deep within the mountain of text about that time frame. So thank you so much for those answering those questions.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cameron Cretch, please.
Thanks very much. Notwithstanding, general whataboutism regarding LRT as a whole, my question is about a dispute that I want to make sure there's a clear example that we can hang on to here so we understand it. In Ward 2, there will be a lot of coordinating works that will occur with respect to LRT, especially in the section near Gore Park, for example. We're going to be dead-ending a number of roads that go north of Gore Park, and we're going to be working on doing major works to city infrastructure at the intersection of John Street and King Street as an example. And so that work will fall outside of what's actually happening with the LRT, will involve the Gore Park Master Plan, involve the extension of issues that are happening on the south side of John Street. So I could see in a situation like that, we agree to what we're going to do, right? We say, these are the coordinating works, this is the work that the city's responsible for, here's where Metrolinx is going to do this. And the city says, well, while you're doing that, we have a municipal need here at John and King. Can we have a betterment? Can we throw something in the pie here? Contractors are going along, and something doesn't happen according to the plan that everybody thinks is supposed to have happened. But it's very important for the city to get a certain outcome there because it will tie into things happening at that intersection and the intersections on either side of it and the whole park. That could be a kind of dispute that we need to get resolved. Is that right, Director Sheikh? Do we understand that?
Yeah, through the chair, yeah, these are really good examples. There are lots of other examples which I can provide, but yeah, so we do have LRT project office, we do have appropriate subject matter experts, and their role and responsibility is to coordinate all of these elements, as Councillor Crotch mentioned. But there could be instances where parties are not getting along with each other about coordination because it's going to impact the schedule of LRT project, and then at the team level, they may think, no, like we're not going to proceed with these capital works. So there could be a number of disputes. So one of the examples, as Councillor Crotch mentioned, but there are lots of other examples which I can provide,
Oh, I'm sure you could come up with 100, Director, that you could think of. You're very intimately involved in the project. But I think the reason I'm mentioning all this is because it's a protection for the city, as far as I understand, to ensure that the public and the public interest are upheld when it comes to the benefits that will be accrued to the city as a result of this project. It's not just about LRT, it's about all the knock-on benefits that happen, and I can see that from time to time there may be issues with those. There were for every other light rail transit project that exists in Ontario. There wasn't a single time where there wasn't a dispute of some kind. So having a concrete, thoughtful dispute resolution process to get ahead of this and learn from best practices in other municipalities seems like the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other first-time speakers? Seeing none, Councillor Cooper, if you could take the chair for a second, please. So I'm not sure who my apologies, Councillor. There you go.
Yes, over to you, Councillor Clark.
I'm not sure exactly who to ask the question of, so I'm referring to Appendix A, Item 2.6. Metrolinx may, at its own risk, elect to continue with construction and other work and activities during the subsistence and pending the resolution of any dispute. Is this a standard clause that Metrolinx has been putting in their LRT projects?
Through the chair, maybe I will start, and obviously Metrolinx is the lead in construction and design. So what they are mentioning, they will proceed at risk while the dispute is being resolved. And this is consistent with other municipalities where Metrolinx has, because of the schedule impacts and all those things, so they could take risk to advance the construction while the dispute is being resolved.
Thank you. The next item is 2.7, and this one, Chair Cooper, I would like to refer to Solicitor McKenna. 2.7 in Appendix A reads as follows. Notwithstanding anything to the contrary set out in the dispute resolution protocol, the parties shall not have recourse to the courts or any other proceedings in respect of the disputes. When I'm reading this clause, it sounds to me as though the City of Hamilton is forfeiting any right to litigation on the LRT. But the wording says specifically in respect of the disputes. So does this mean there will not be any potential litigation if we adopt the dispute resolution process as recommended?
Through the chair to the councillor. The concept of the dispute resolution protocol, councillor, is to avoid litigation. So in lieu of litigation, we are agreeing to resolve our disputes in relation to the project that might arise by using the dispute resolution protocol.
So, and I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but the LRT is one of the most complex infrastructure projects that I can recall the City of Hamilton ever entering into in my timeline anyways. Could there be litigation on any item that is not pertinent to the disputes?
Through the chair to the counselor.
the province
Sorry, Counselor.
the province reneges on its decision that they would pay for any cost escalations, would the city then have an opportunity for litigation on that?
Through the chair to the counselor. Counselor, I'm not entirely sure. I would suggest that any disputes in relation to the project have to go through the DRP. So the province is a party to the MOU. So my conclusion, I think, would be that we would have to use the DRP for any project-related disputes, be it with Metrolinx or with the province.
Thank you. If I still have time, Chair. The DRP process, I understand the committees that are being set up, and the city has a position that is contrary to Metrolinx or the province's position. Does the city retain the right for their lawyers to appear before this dispute resolution board and articulate and advocate the city's position?
Through the chair to the counselor, yes, pursuant to section 7.1E of the DRP, legal representation is permitted at the hearings.
Thank you. So can I then paraphrase now that you've brought me to item 7? Isn't the Dispute Resolution Review Board, if this committee agrees to it, taking the place of what a judge or a courtroom would do if there was a dispute outside of this process? So if we adopt this, it will save the city time and money because it will not be going to the courts for long-winded litigation. Is that a
Through the
fair
chair.
statement?
Apologies. Through the chair to the counselor. Yes, counselor. The concept here, I think it's good to think of this as an alternative dispute resolution process that the parties are agreeing to. So instead of litigating, we agree to run our disputes through the dispute resolution protocol.
Okay, thank you. That makes a great deal of sense to me. Thank you. I'll take the chair back. Councilor
Back to you,
Cooper.
Deputy Mayor.
Okay, did we have a mover and seconder? Yes, we have. Thank you very much. So the item is before you. Oh, sorry, Councilor Robert Cooper, second time, please.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to the solicitor. So, there's been a number of LRTs that have gone forward. When you start looking at this DRP that we have and what I assume they had DRPs, you can speak to that. Any items that went to the courts that you could speak to? Has everything for all the other LRTs that we've seen across Ontario, has everything gone through the dispute mechanism that they had in place, or was there anything that went outside of the dispute mechanism and ended up in the courts?
Through the chair to the counselor. Unfortunately, counselor, I can't speak to the other projects. I'm not familiar with whether or not they had dispute resolution processes similar to this in place. I would suggest, though, that I think at least in the case of one of them, it doesn't come to mind now, but I believe there was litigation for one of them. So I think that would suggest that they did not have an alternative dispute resolution process in place. So, and again, I would reiterate that the intent of this dispute resolution protocol is to give us a forum to resolve our disputes so that we don't have to engage in costly and time-consuming litigation.
Okay.
Councillor?
Thank you, Chair. So I guess, and maybe you won't know this for a fact, but maybe this is a lesson learned from the other LRTs that have gone on where it has ended up, as you mentioned, and there's an example there would end up in the courts, and this dispute mechanism is really a lesson learned in terms of how to do this at this stage of the evolution of LRTs in Ontario.
Solicitor?
Through the chair to the counselor, I think that would certainly be one of the motivations. Yes, counselor.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I have one last question, Chair Cooper. Just keep your mic there.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Over to you.
So what is missing in this dispute resolution is the proponent. So it speaks to Metrolinx, it speaks to the province of Ontario, it speaks to the city of Hamilton. If the proponent is in a dispute with Metrolinx or the province of Ontario, that may go to the courts. It's not solved here at the dispute resolution table. Is that a correct statement?
Through the chair to the councillor. So councillor, Metrolinx is utilizing an alliance procurement model, what's called an alliance procurement model for the first phase of construction. My understanding, again, I haven't seen the documents related to this, but my understanding of that is the concept of alliance procurement model is a collaborative approach, whereas they would also be foregoing the right to go into litigation in preference to having their own dispute resolution process. So I would suggest that Metrolinx will have its own dispute resolution processes in place with the successful proponent via this alliance procurement model. But I would also refer this to Abdul. He might be able to add additional information to that.
Through the chairs, this is really a good question. I just can tell that city is not signing any of the agreement with proponent. So since we are not signing, so I'm assuming that, we will not be in a litigation. Yes, in some cases, because we do have direct relation with proponent because they are sending permits to us. And if we are delaying the permits, that could be an issue, those kind of example. But as a Solicitor McKenna mentioned, that Metrolinx and proponent, they have hundreds of pages of agreements, right? So I'm pretty sure they'll probably have a separate protocol, how these dispute resolution, how the dispute will be for, resolved when they are dealing with the third parties, right? So I don't see any of these going to the litigations because we are not signing any of the agreement with proponent. But there are some other relation we have which we can bring more information later down the road as well.
So at some point in the future, we're going to have a operations agreement that will be presented to the council, and the council has to sign off on the operational agreement, the costs that are involved, all of that. That is between the city and Metrolinx, and the proponent does not have an oar in the water there, correct?
Through the chair, this is exactly, yeah. So there are three agreements, train operation agreement. There will be municipal funding agreement where city will have to fund. So through the MOU, Metrolinx will still be the contract administrator of the operation phase, right? So we will have to follow everything through Metrolinx. So what I'm contemplating, that agreement will be between city and Metrolinx. There will be some items of operations which we still have to figure it out because city has a responsibility of day-to-day cleaning and those kind of things, right? So no operations. So maybe there are some other auxiliary agreement which we may need to be executed between the proponent and city, agreeing on certain items which is allowable by Metrolinx, right? For day-to-day cleaning, if while we are cleaning the snow on roads, maybe there are ways we can clean snow on the stops and those kind of things. So there may be some auxiliary agreement which we may need to work, but all of these things need to be sorted out at the later stage. But all of the agreement as of today is with Metrolinx and
city. So to be clear, Chair, and what I heard several times in past councils is that the operating agreement is the last agreement that has to be signed by the city with Metrolinx. And that will tell us how much the city of Hamilton will be paying for operating the line. Is that still the case?
Through the chairs, yeah, I'm not sure whether it's going to be a last one, but there will be an agreement coming in the future which will confirm the city's commitment on day-to-day operations and whatever the obligation we have under the MOU.
And we can't sign an operations agreement until there is a successful proponent who's going to build the line and will tell us what Metrolinx at that point will be able to tell us what the operating costs will be from that agreement, correct?
Through the chair, agreement could happen before, because we will be agreeing on roles and responsibilities. That's, for example, in the MOU, we have already committed that city will be paying day-to-day operations. So we may be agreeing on high-level principles subject to the cost which will come through the package 2. Right now, we are dealing with the package 1, which is more about civil and utilities. So there will be a second package, will be more involved that the operation of LRT, hopefully. But we may be agreeing on high-level principles through that train operation agreement and other in advance of that cost.
Yeah, I don't mean to disagree, Chair, but we've been told all along that that operations agreement will dictate exactly what the operating costs for the LRT will be for the city, excluding maintenance. So at some point, that operational agreement has to come here, and I don't think it can come here until we know what the proponent says the operational cost will be. At least that's the way it's been in other LRTs.
Through the chair, we can bring that clarity in the future.
Please, thank you.
But I do understand the concern.
I got off target a little bit. Thank you, Chair.
Back to you, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, there are no further speakers on the item. So item 8.4, the light rail transit agreement update, which is the dispute resolution mechanism, is before the committee. That vote carried 13-2. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item is motions, 9.1, amendment to item 1-2B of the General Issues Committee Report 23-024, respecting report HSC 23041, addressing needs of unsheltered individuals and those relying on Hamilton's emergency shelter system. Councillor Nan, would you like to introduce your motion, please? Sorry, too many buttons to push.
No worries, I can appreciate that. Thank you, Chair. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Huang. This is mainly a housekeeping amendment motion. Colleagues will see that there was previously a $2.3 million conditional grant that was identified with previous council approval as an essential component to the project's financing plan, and a municipal contribution which helps confirm the funding agreements with senior levels of government. And it moves from a conditional grant to an immediate grant. That's basically what we're doing here in terms of the amendment. And staff from the Housing Secretariat are available to answer any committee members' questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Did you have a seconder? Councillor Wang, thank you. I might have missed that. My apologies. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, Chair Cooper, if you could take the chair for a second, please. There we go.
Over to you, Deputy Mayor.
So my understanding, and not sure whether or not it'll be Councillor Nan or staff, but I'm seeking verification on the amounts that are being provided by the federal and provincial government on this project. I only see in the motion the 2.3 million, which was what we had committed as a conditional grant. And it says in the motion, Indwell Community Homes has secured funding from senior levels of government through the Affordable Housing Development Project stream and commenced construction in spring of 2025. But it does not indicate that we have confirmed from the senior levels of government what dollar figure they're going to be providing. Does anyone have that?
Over to you, Director.
Thank you for the question and through the chair. Councillor Clark, Justin Lewis, Director of Housing Secretariat. As you might know, this funding of $2.3 million was allocated by council before we ever had our affordable housing development project stream put in place. This funding was in one of those one-off cases where funding was approved for a project. The exact dollar figures associated to the capital stack or the pro forma for this project, I don't have that information on me right now, but I can get that for you, Councillor Clark. But I can assure you that this $2.3 million is accounted for in that capital stack and pro forma for this project to move forward, and has been taken into consideration through any funding that has been administered through CMHC or other orders of government.
So Chair, respectfully, the city is going to give a grant of $2.3 million, and we do not have verification of the amount of money that the feds in the province are putting on the table? Have we not received written correspondence from them saying, here's our grant, we're matching yours, or whatever the dollar figure is? We don't have that data?
So through the chair, Councillor, we do have that data. I just don't have that data at my fingertips, and I can provide that information to you. But what I am saying, Councillor Clark, is that this funding is a part of that makeup and that pro forma that was submitted through CMHC for them to be able to grant their funding. And in most instances with these projects, the funding associated to the municipal contributions is much lower than the associated funding from the federal government or the provincial government in this instance.
Yeah, Chair, I'm concerned. We should have that figure. With the greatest of respect to the front bench, the city manager, we're agreeing to give the grant of $2.3 million on a project which we were supposed to be partners in with the senior levels of government, and nowhere here do we have that information. So how am I supposed to do this? Because I've said from the very beginning, future housing, it has to be with senior level government funding. We can't do it alone. And we have the motion here, not blaming Councillor Nan at all. She's just following up to make sure the money flows. I'm doing the same thing. I want to make sure that senior levels of government have sent us commitments to verify how much money they're going to be sending us. City Manager Clucky wishes to respond, Chair.
Through you, Mr. Chair, and appreciate that question and the importance of providing that information. May I suggest we provide that in advance of council so it can be determined then?
Okay. But that puts us in an awkward spot. We're voting on something where we don't have the data. So can we defer this item to council?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that would be my recommendation so that you can have all of the information you've requested before you vote.
I've spoken to it. I don't know if we can get a deferral from anyone else.
Okay, well,
I'll
back to you,
take
Deputy
the
Mayor.
chair back.
Okay, thank you.
And over to Councillor Nan.
Thank you, and appreciate that colleagues around the table feel they don't have enough information in the form of an amending motion. That said, Director Lewis did mention that the funding agreement formula and the stack is available, just not available in this moment. I assure staff can probably, as they said, get that to committee members prior to council meeting. In the past, we've not deferred decisions like this, instead just moved the motion, and if there was further action that needed to be taken as a result of clarifying information at council, that direction could be sought at council. And so what I'd encourage my colleagues to do around the table is understand that this is a good faith motion. It is simply a housekeeping one. It is a project that is currently already under construction. It has received all of its levels of funding, including substantive contributions from the community through fundraising through Indwell, and it's towards 23 family-oriented, deeply affordable, supportive housing units in Ward 3. So I would appeal to my colleagues around the table to not defer the motion. Instead, go ahead. Join me if you think that this is worthwhile. and trust that confidence of staff saying that they'll provide the supplemental information prior to council, and at council, if committee members choose to not accept this, we can do that then. Thank you.
I'll take the chair. So if you could take the chair, Councillor?
You can let him-
I'm just making it clear. I'm not voting for this unless I have that information. I'm not getting burned again like we did on Barton Tiffany. I want to know exactly how much money is being provided in partnership with us. It's a reasonable request, and quite candidly, this motion should have included that. So if there's no deferral to council, I'll simply vote against it. Thank you.
Over to you, Deputy Mayor.
Councillor Cameron Crutch, please.
I just want to clarify that what we're doing here today is approving this, which we already have approved conditionally. And so we've done the due diligence, we've looked at this as a council and approved this. The only thing that's happening now is we're taking the application off of conditional status because the project has moved forward, is under construction. And that's the process we use here, like we use with almost every planning application. When we do a site plan application, we have a conditional site plan approval. Once the fine details of the site plan approval have been gone through and people have met the conditions of the site plan approval, we remove the conditional approval, make it a final approval, and move on. That's exactly what we're doing here. So as far as I understand, this is literally a housekeeping amendment for a decision we've already made. So we've committed this funding to the project already, and we're just moving this project forward. So I'm going to vote in favor of doing that because we already voted in favor of doing it.
Councillor Jeff Beattie.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. I'm of a mind to agree, so I would move the deferral motion to next council meeting, which is a week from today, based on having all information available for councillors to make complete decisions and hopefully garner unanimous support for this, because I do believe that it's an important project.
Thank you, Councillor. So that would be a referral motion to refer to the next City Council meeting. Is there a seconder on the referral? Councillor Robert Cooper. Is there debate on the referral? On the instructions. So it's simply just to go to council so we can get that information. Any other items? So then we'll call the vote on the referral. We're still having technical issues with software. The referral motion has been defeated, so the item is before us now. It's okay. The motion carried 9-3, and making clear to the city manager, we will have the information that was requested at council, correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct.
Thank you. Okay, now moving on to notices of motion. 10.1, strategic workforce capacity and consultant utilization review. Councillor Taddison, would you like to introduce your notice of motion? I believe you're wanting it to stay as a notice of motion. 1 second. There we go.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is notice of motion. It will be staying as a notice of motion. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Cretch. It's focusing on optimizing City Hamilton's workforce capacity and reducing reliance on external consultants when appropriate. Some of the key directives we're looking at are the skill gap analysis, recruitment and competitive analysis, a consultant utilization review, strategic workforce capacity plan, and annual budget submissions. This motion will be tweaked over the next few weeks with staff input and staff feedback and fellow councillors' input, because we are looking to have this to be a collaborative effort on all of our parts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Are there any other notices of motion for today's meeting? I see no one raising their hand, so we're going to move on to item 11, private and confidential. Item 11.1 is GIC 26-002, February 4th, closed session minutes, and 11.2 is GIC 26-003, February 10th, 2026, Special General Issues Committee closed session minutes. May I have a mover and seconder to adopt the confidential minutes and that they remain confidential? Moved by Councillor Cooper, seconded by Councillor Pauls, and this one is a vote by hand. All those in favor, please. And that is carried. Thank you. Okay, we will now need a motion to go into closed sessions for items 11.3 and 11.4. I will read the motion that's required, and then I will request a move and seconder for that motion. Pursuant to Section 9.3, subsection C, H, and K of the City's Procedural Bylaw 21-021 as amended, and Section 2392, subsection C, H, and K of the Ontario Municipal Act 2001 as amended, as the subject matter pertains to a proposal or pending acquisition or disposition of land for the city or local board purpose, information explicitly supplied in confidence to the city or local board by Canada, a province or territory or a crown agency or any of them, and K, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on behalf of the City of Hamilton or a local board. I need a mover and seconder for that motion, please. Moved by Councillor Wang, seconded by Councillor Robert Cooper, and that one is an electronic vote, please. So while the vote is loading, members of the public are advised that during the closed session portion of this meeting, the live stream will broadcast a closed session in progress screen. The broadcast will resume when the closed session portion of the meeting has been completed. As we're now moving to a closed session, I would ask all members of the public, delegates, and external participants to please now exit the WebEx meeting. As well, any staff that are not directly related to the in-camera items are also now asked to please exit the WebEx meeting or the chambers. I also remind members of council that as per Section 8.7 of the procedural bylaw, the use of personal electronic devices during closed meetings is strictly prohibited. However, the use of city electronic devices during closed meetings are limited to text communications only, with the city's electronic devices not being used as a telephone, recording device, or camera. Staff from the Office of the City Clerk are exempted from subsection 8.7C when using electronic devices for record-keeping purposes. The motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much. And we're still trying to share that to the public. There we go, 11-0. Okay, folks, we'll go in camera. Do you want a nature break before we go in camera, members? I'm seeing a nodding, so maybe 10 minutes would be sufficient. So let's have a 10-minute break. We'll be back at 11:15. Thank you. Yes, I did. I'm ready. Mm-hmm. Thank you, everyone. Welcome back to the General Issues Committee for the City of Hamilton for February 25th, 2026. We are just coming out of a closed session. Item 7.4 and 11.3, tax sales properties. The motion is the following: to receive the item and that the confidential appendix remain confidential, and B, that the directions provided to staff in closed session be approved and remain confidential. I need a mover and a seconder for that motion. Councillor Kretsch and Councillor McMeekin. This is an electronic vote. Just waiting for the vote to pop up, and that carried unanimously, 12-0. Thank you very much. 11.4, PED 26027, water pumping station. The motion will be that the directions provided to staff in closed session respecting report PED 26027 water pumping station be approved. B, that report PED 26027 respect our water pumping station remain confidential until completion of the real estate transaction. And C, that confidential appendix B to report PED 26027 respecting water pumping station remain confidential. I need a mover and a seconder for that motion. Moved by Councillor Kretsch, seconded by Councillor Wang. Thank you. And we'll have that vote electronically now. That vote carried unanimously. Item 12, adjournment. That being no further business for this committee, the meeting is adjourned at 12:25 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.